On WhatsApp, no one can see or hear your personal messages. Whether it's a voice call, message, or sending a password. To WhatsApp, it's all just this. So whether you're sharing the streaming password in the family chat or trading those late-night voice messages that could basically become a podcast, your personal messages stay between you, your friends, and your family. No one else. Not even us. WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at USAA.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
This MailChimp-verific jingle is brought to you by MailChimp.
MailChimp, your marketing with AI and more. Advanced automations to connect to your store. MailChimp, your marketing and boost your clicks. Multi-channel campaigns now with SMS. That's lit.
MailChimp your marketing today with the #1 AI-powered email marketing and automation platform, Intuit MailChimp. #1 based on publicly available data on competitors' customers. Plans vary. SMS available as add-on. Visit MailChimp.com.
Introducing the new Volvo XC90 with 7-seat versatility, Google built-in, and advanced safety features for all your precious cargo. The new Volvo XC90, designed for life. Visit volvocars.com/US to learn more.
This summer, try the new Strato Frappuccino blended beverage at Starbucks. It's the classic blended iced coffee you know and love, now topped with a creamy layer of handcrafted brown sugar cold foam. Available for a limited time. Your Strato Frappuccino is ready at Starbucks.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Kelly Green Hour, as we are officially less than 1 month away until the Eagles' first preseason game, which is August 7th. I think it's against the Bengals, if I'm not mistaken. And we're, 2 weeks away, if I'm not mistaken, from training camp. Whenever that opens up, we are in there's a football game this month. It is July 31st. It's the Hall of Fame game, but football is close to being back. I'm your host, LG Harrell, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Connor Donald. Connor, I've had enough of not having football. I don't know about you. I've already started, the people that are the person that I watch Eagles games with, we've already talked about what our food game plan is for the preseason game. I can't even wait for week 1 against the Cowboys to see how that's going to go. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I can't wait. It's been a long, off season. It's been a long wait. It hasn't really felt that long, but we just want football back. We just finished. We came off the high of the Super Bowl, and you just want to be right into the next season, right back into the thick of things. So, I'm pretty amped up, and I'm really excited that we can actually say it's no longer, people with these 100-day countdowns. It's dwindling down. We're now talking, a month versus months, and the regular season here is going to start in about 2 months. I can't wait, man. I'm excited, and training camp, even just getting back into training camp, the vibes and everything, you just can tell football is back even when it's just training camp. So I know by the end of week 1 of the preseason, we're going to be like, let's just get to the season already, but
Let's
whatever.
Be real,
we deal with that when we're there.
By the end of the first quarter of the first preseason game for the Eagles, because we already know that the Eagles aren't going to play anybody. And when we say they're not going to play anybody, they're not going to play anybody, because they never do. But before we jump into what we're going to discuss today, as always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJRow54. And follow Eagles Pinpull Network on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook, and wherever you get your podcast at Eagles Pinpull Network. And if you're joining us live, let us know. We have a chat. This is a new feature, or not a new feature. A new site that we're using, so we're still trying to get used to it. But yeah, we're going to be discussing our way too early 53-man roster for the Eagles. As I mentioned, the first preseason game is August 7th against the Bengals at the Link, and then week 2, August 16th against the Cleveland Browns. They're actually going to have a joint practice with them leading up to that game at 1 p.m. at the Link, and then they finish off August 22nd in Jersey against the Jets before kicking off week 1, September 4th, where they raised the banner in front of Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, which obviously we can't wait to rub it in their face. So that's going to be nice. Nice to do. But as we were saying, we're going to discuss our way too early 53-man roster, and I've actually had this written out, I think, for like 3 weeks now. I had to make one adjustment because I thought we were going to get, I'll say it, I thought we were going to sign Jair Alexander. We obviously did not. So I needed to make a change there. But I don't know about you, Connor, before we jump into this. I think that there's probably 35 to 40 locks on the roster. And, you know, the Eagles are just going to have to try to figure out the back end of the roster. Maybe some special teams guys, some depth at key positions. But, I mean, we're talking about a roster that is set. I think it's easy to say. This is a roster that we know 10 of the 11 starters on offense. The defense is a little bit different. Obviously, they got to replace like 4 or 5 guys, but we know primarily who is going to be on this team.
Yeah, I agree with you. When I was putting together my 53-man, it was, I mean, I think you're generous in saying about 35. I think I was closer to like 45 locks. And then it was just kind of closing the gap on that final, like not 8, 9 guys and figuring out, okay, we got all these guys who are predominantly special teamers. Which ones are going to stand out? Which ones does the team like? And I think it's going to come down to who can be put into more of the situations. We moved on from Britton Covey for a reason because he could not ever be put in on offense and be relied upon. And then he was only really reliable as a punt returner. We didn't even use him that much as a kick returner.
Test,
exactly. So, I mean, I think at the end of the day...
By the way, not to cut you off, do you know what number the Rams gave Britton Covey?
No,
they
I don't
gave
think
him number
I did
10.
see that.
Do you know who was number 10 before him? Cooper
Henry
Kupp.
Ruggs? Oh, I thought it was Henry Ruggs.
No, that's the Raiders. That's the Raiders. But he's with the Covey's with the Rams. But yeah, I can't believe they gave him Cooper Kupp's number. I just thought that was interesting. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's a tough love approach for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty locked down, and like knowing the way that Howie works, especially with drafts, he's not one to give up on his draft picks after 1 year. So, or after drafting them in the off season prior. So those 10 guys, I almost give it as a lock that at least 9 or 10 of them are going to end up making the roster as well. So just knowing like the team and how it's built, I felt I was pretty locked up at 45 guys. So, and then it only came down to the others and thinking in my mind, can any of these guys go out there and be defensive players or offensive players, or are they purely special teams players? And if they're purely special teams players, are they able to do it in all facets of special teams? So that's really how I ended up narrowing it down. There's a couple ones, like there was a couple I had a hard time parting with, but I mean, there's only a couple that I think might be tough ones. I know that come the preseason, everyone's going to pile it on and be like, how are we going to cut, from 90 to 53? It happens every year. Everyone thinks we have like the most depth in all of the NFL, but in looking at it, maybe we do have some really good depth, but I thought it was easier than usual to put this together, and that probably is coming off the Super Bowl victory. So,
yeah, and I thought that the biggest difficulty for me was which position did I want to add depth to. I had primarily had the set guys, and then it came to okay. Now, do I want an extra end? Do I want an extra tackle, linebacker, offensive lineman, receiver, and stuff like that? All right, so let's jump into this. We're going to start, I think, at the easy position. We're going to start on the offensive side of the ball. We'll start at quarterback. I have the Eagles keeping 3. No shock, Jalen Hurts and Tanner McKee. And I guess they're going to keep Kyle McCord. It wouldn't shock me, though, if they kept 2 and the third one is just on the practice squad, whether it's McCord or DTR. But that's what I have. But right now I have 3, and it wouldn't take much convincing if I needed to add at a different position or keep more depth at a different position. Getting rid of Kyle McCord and adding that person and letting McCord or DTR be on the practice squad.
Yeah, I was the same. I had Hurts, McKee, and McCord. I kept it at 3. I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he had a chance. And then as soon as the Eagles drafted a quarterback, it automatically put him at the very back of the line. And while it was a savvy move to move on from Kenny Pickett and do the swap of picks and get DTR, I agree with you. It's rare to see Howie give up on a pick, and it depends if Howie thinks that there's other teams out there that think McCord is a good guy to drop in as their emergency third quarterback. how much risk that might be to leave him out there for the waivers. But I agree with you. Like, if injuries don't fall the way the Eagles want, right now we think Nakobe Dean will obviously start on PUP. Will Jihad Campbell start on PUP or not? We got to figure out these injuries and who's going to be able to make the roster and what space that leaves on the roster. But I agree with you. If Howie sees it as safe, I could see them going with 2 and letting McCord go if they feel he'll get through the waiver wire. But they're really smart with their quarterbacks as well. So they would be able to find another quarterback and probably be quite content with their emergency third quarterback either way. I just find it hard to believe that Howie would give up on McCord or not keep McCord on the roster.
Yeah, and if there's a team that prioritizes the backup quarterback, unlike any other team in the NFL, it is the Eagles. They won their first Super Bowl with a backup quarterback, and Jalen Hurts, as good as he is, the last couple of years he has missed a couple of games, whether it was to the shoulder injury, to a concussion, and whatnot. So they definitely want to have multiple options, and Tanner McKee is finally getting that shot to be the backup. Let's go to the running back position, and we'll let you start us off there, Connor.
Do you want me to do running back and fullback? Should we combine that?
That's how I did it. I combined them.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'll combine it then. So I got Saquon Barkley, Will Shipley, A.J. Dillon, Avery Williams, and Ben Van Sumeren. Saquon Barkley, Will Shipley, obviously. A.J. Dillon, I'm on the fence about. If he can come out and show that, he can be reliable, that he's healthy and he's good to go, and he can eat some of that early down work, take some of that short yardage work off of Saquon Barkley's back, I can see A.J. Dillon making the roster, but I was also heavily debating Montrell Johnson. Is it Jackson? The one that we got as a undrafted free agent. There's a world where I can see him. Yeah, from Florida. Yep. There's a world where I can see him making the roster strictly for the fact that him and A.J. Dillon are very similar players. Like, that's the whole point of having an A.J. Dillon or a Montrell Jackson is the fact that you want a guy who can take some of that short yardage work off of Saquon Barkley and help to keep Saquon Barkley healthier for the duration of his contract. Avery Williams, the Eagles just talked so highly of him as soon as they acquired him, and he can play in every facet of the special teams that I think he can make it, and I think that the offense can get kind of creative with Avery Williams on the roster. Ben Van Sumeren, he's locked in as a fullback, he's locked in as a special teams dude, so I went with 5 if you count fullback as that position.
So it's crazy that you have Avery Williams as a running back. I actually have Avery Williams slotted in at wide receiver, but I haven't making the team. So my running backs, I have 4, including Van Sumeren. I have Saquon, I have A.J. Dillon, I have Will Shipley, and I have Van Sumeren. And Ben Van Sumeren, Jeffrey Lurie, he was on WIP a couple months ago. It was after the Super Bowl, and he had mentioned that he was talking to John Ritchie, and he was like, "Yeah, we're going to try to bring the fullback position back." And I think Ben Van Sumeren, before he got hurt last year, he did really good. So I mean, he's going to make the team, and we'll see how much they use him. But Saquon Barkley, I'm going to be intrigued. Obviously, he's not going to play in preseason. They're going to keep it easy in camp. How does he start the season? He had a lot of carries last year. Is he going to come out and, is he going to just hit the ground running, or is it going to be a slow start? A lot of people anticipate it being a slow start. He's not going to have 2,000 yards rushing again, most likely. And if he does, it's crazy. But this is where the depth at running back is going to be key. If A.J. Dillon is healthy and can stay healthy, I think he's like, you have Saquon Barkley running at you all day, and then you have A.J. Dillon, who's probably bigger than Saquon Barkley and has power. So it'll be interesting to see, like, if you're a defense and you had to try to tackle Saquon all day, and then he comes out, and then you're like, oh, thank God. And then boom, here comes A.J. Dillon. Like I would not want to be a defense when that happens. Adam, thank you for joining us. He says he's not in love with Shipley, but he's looking forward to A.J. Dillon. And I am too. And that's as long as Adam's exploits. Thank you. That's as long as he's healthy. Now, we don't know if he's healthy. Is he a lock to make the roster? I don't think so. So I think obviously Barkley is, and I think Shipley is as well. Shipley doesn't have the speed, and he's not that big. I mean, that run that he had against Washington in the NFC Championship game, he should have scored like on that run, but he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that breakaway speed. But I do think the Eagles like him a lot. So we'll see. And like you said, they signed a couple undrafted guys. So it'll be a battle. And these are the guys that we're going to see in the preseason games against the Bengals, Browns, and Jets. But right now
I should, and I'll step in and correct. It's Montrell Johnson. So that's
Johnson.
the other guy. And yeah, it's Johnson. And yeah, to Adam's point, Will Shipley is like we have Saquon Barkley, so we have to remember at the end of the day, will he get the number of carries and the work that he got of this prior year? I don't foresee that happening, and I think that's why they went out and got AJ Dillon. I think that's why they went out and loaded up on free agents and undrafted free agents like Keelan Robinson, Montrell Johnson, Shanderick Powell. I think it
Robinson
shows
is
that
intriguing.
he is intriguing as well. I agree. So I think that it's going to but you have to remember how they have to build this roster. And I really think that it's going to be challenging for them to fit more than like 4 running backs. So they're going to probably have to make some tough decisions at the running back position. But the good thing is a couple of these guys are probably going to fall back to the practice squad and can be called up on game day if there's issues or injuries with anybody. But yeah, I'm not in love with Will Shipley. AJ Dillon has to prove that he's healthy and able to start handling a workload. But I don't see Saquon Barkley with a fresh extension. I don't see them giving him the same workload. I think they want to continue to keep Barkley healthy and effective, and I think that that's going to come by sharing some of his workload, as painful as it may be for us to watch.
I actually disagree. I think they're gonna if they're gonna use them, they're gonna use them. I mean, I think they're gonna ride Saquon if that's what they decide to do. Adam says I think they're gonna miss Gainwell, especially after Barkley's carries last year. I disagree. I mean, I wasn't a big Gainwell fan. I thought every touch Gainwell had was a waste. How he is going to do though for certain is he is going to, when cuts are made, he's going to look at the quarterback, or excuse me, the running back market for sure. He's going to scout it. And it wouldn't shock me if, after cuts, the final roster is going to be one thing, but before that Dallas game, it's going to look different. There's going to be maybe a handful of players that make the initial 53 man roster that aren't going to be on the roster come September 4th. So yeah, I'm interested. And you mentioned Kalen Robinson. It's a very intriguing name. Like he was probably close there for me. But we'll see what happens. And I'm telling you, the third running back or fourth running back, however many they decide to keep, isn't on the roster right now. It's probably going to be picked up after final cuts. Let's move to the wide receiver position. And I think obviously the first two are easy. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Jahan Dotson is the third. I have 5 receivers: Johnny Wilson and Avery Williams. This is where I have Avery Williams. Obviously, Williams is going to be the punt returner, kick returner. He's going to be a return guy. That's why they brought him in. So he is going to make the team. You have him as a running back. I have him as a wide receiver. Doesn't really matter what his position name is. He's going to be on the team. I don't know how much offensive reps he's going to get. But we'll see. But I mean, if A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Jahan Dotson and Saquon and Dallas Goedert all stay healthy, he shouldn't, really see much offense. Like, I hate it when they kept trying to run those screens with Covey last year. It was so frustrating to watch that. I don't want to see that with anybody like Avery Wilson. And Avery Williams. And with Johnny Wilson, I'm still iffy on him. Again, this could be another where the 4th or 5th receiver isn't on the roster. But I think they like him for his blocking. And we know how much they liked throwing the ball last year. Well, I think they're going to throw it more this year. I do think that, again, this is they might not want to give up on a draft pick so easily. But we'll see, because there are a couple guys that, in the OTAs and camps that really kind of opened up some eyes. But right now I have Johnny Wilson and Avery Williams as the final 2 receivers.
To talk to Adam's comment, I have Johnny Wilson making the team. You've Johnny Wilson making the team. So
Which
who
means
knows?
he probably
But
won't.
at this point, Yeah, which means he probably won't. The poor guy. We're giving him the bad luck curse here. But I agree predominantly with you, except I have Anaya Smith also making the team. I have them running it back the way they had it last year. Anaya Smith is definitely gonna need a really good offseason because last offseason, if we remember, he had some major issues holding onto the ball and catching punts throughout training camp and through the preseason, and then he magically ended up missing the first 4 weeks of the season. I think he ended up on the PUP list to start last season. So clearly, but making that move to keep him on the PUP list versus cutting him says something. It means that they saw something, they wanted to see a bit more, and I think that they're going to get that really good look this offseason. And I mean, I definitely agree that, there's a lot of guys with the 10 draft picks that Howie made this year. It's going to be very difficult for some of the guys who were drafted last year and the year prior to remain on the roster and be looking for second and third chances because they need to be able to prove it, and stand out big time throughout this offseason. Because if they didn't do it last year, this is your final shot. If you're a guy from the 2023 draft class looking for your third shot at this roster, you're probably not making the roster. But the guys from last year, like a Johnny Wilson and an Anaya Smith, I think still have chances. And I agree with you. The Philadelphia Eagles will never go, especially with the state of the tight end position after Dallas Goedert. They're never going to let go of a guy like Johnny Wilson who can block and who can be a guy that they can put to trust a bit more with the blocking aspect of the game. Because when we get to tight ends, I think we have a little bit of a discussion to have because obviously we know there's quantity, but the quality is very questionable, especially when it comes to the blocking aspect of the game. But I have us running it back, but I agree with you. I mean, if you look at that recent ESPN article, they have us signing Tyler Boyd, that being the final move of the offseason. That it was an article about every team's final move of the offseason to complete their off seasons, and they had Tyler Boyd, which I don't hate the prospect of Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd can work the slot. He was a reliable wide receiver. He kind of got pushed out because things got crowded in Cincinnati. And then he played last season in Tennessee where we know that's where wide receivers essentially go to die. So I don't think you can put last season into perspective with Tyler Boyd. I think he could be very reliable. The unfortunate thing here for in regards to that signing is that I think Jahan Dotson proved enough to the Philadelphia Eagles that he can take that next step this year and he can continue to be reliable. And how much will the Eagles want to go or feel that they need to go and sign another wide receiver? That's the question. And while we think that there's a need, and there's some people who love Terrace Marshall who think, that these offseason programs and the reaction is like he should be making the roster. I don't know. Terrace Marshall's another one of those guys. This is a guy who's on a new team looking for a fresh start, like a fourth chance in the NFL. Is he going to be able to make it work on this Eagles roster, fighting with the likes of Anaya Smith, Johnny Wilson, and potentially wide receiver who isn't yet on the roster? Tough to say. And just a quick touch on Adam's comment. He says, I agree, Howie may upgrade after the cuts.
Yeah, definitely. He always does. Besides Terrace Marshall, Danny Gray's another guy to keep an eye on, especially in preseason. He was one that opened up a lot of eyes during camp. So, again, it wouldn't shock me if one of these other guys made it, or like you said, Tyler Boyd, and as Alex said, or excuse me, Adam says, I think Jalen trusts Dotson, especially after the playoffs. He threw it to him a couple times in the Super Bowl. He had a full off season of learning the offense, getting more comfortable in Eagles green. So yeah, I think Dotson's going to have a bigger role if the Eagles decide to throw the football a little bit more. Let's move to the tight end position. You can have first crack at that, Connor.
This is where I had one of the hardest times because I really wanted to keep three because I like Harrison Bryant. I think Harrison Bryant can end up making this roster and can end up proving something. It just didn't fit the build of the roster and knowing the Howie mentality and the mindset. He's fine with probably letting almost every one of these tight ends, if they don't stand out in the preseason and the training camp, he's fine with letting them test waivers and trying to bring them back. And there's definitely, I don't see a trade happening. I don't see Mayer coming. I don't see Pitts coming. I think they're going to roll with Dotson. They're going to roll
Washington?
with Greg. I maybe like the they should make a move at tight end. I know that they don't want to step on like some people are like they don't want to step on toes with Dallas Goddard. They just signed this fresh contract. It's only 1 year. You still have to look out for you and look out for your future. I don't think it's going to be a huge. Like, I don't think it'll be Kyle Pitts. Like the dream of Kyle Pitts coming to Philadelphia, that would be stepping on toes. Then you have to give Kyle Pitts a contract while making him take like a back end workload again to the likes of AJ Brown, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goddard, Jalen Hurts legs. It just doesn't make any feasible sense. But picking up a guy like maybe Darnell Washington kind of makes a bit of sense because he's a guy you can bury on as a tight end 2 or 3, and you don't necessarily have to worry about a contract coming up or having to pay the guy big or giving him a massive workload and stuff. But I just have Dallas Goddard and Greg Calcaterra. My fringe guy here was Harrison Bryant. I really liked Nick Muse coming out of that draft class. I thought he was a really good tight end as well, but he's kind of hasn't really found his way in the NFL yet. And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, the Eagles kind of signed him late in the year, kind of snuck in and grabbed him, and then have kind of kept him around. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up back on the practice squad. But for now, unless they make a trade, it's two of them, and it's gonna be Goddard and it's gonna be Calcaterra.
So I have three. Goddard, obviously, Calcaterra, obviously, and if it was going to be Harrison Bryant, but then after the Steelers made the trade for Jonnu Smith, I think Howie is going to finagle and swing a trade for Darnell Washington. So I have Darnell Washington, and he's another big body guy. If they're going to run the ball, run behind him, and he's going to be here with his Georgia boys. Now I know they're all on defense, but another Georgia Bulldog coming, joining the Alabama offense now. But yeah, I mean, he's got some sneaky athletic ability too. So I think Darnell Washington can be a guy that the Eagles decide to bring in, and it'll be for again, they have 13 picks next year. They're not going to use all 13, so why not trade a lower a third day draft pick for Darnell Washington? It'll be like a low risk, high reward type of deal. So that's who I have at the tight end position.
I agree. If they can get some guy who's starting to get buried down the depth chart and take advantage, absolutely. I just think the dream of getting a big name tight end or one of those guys who was drafted higher up that is just not succeeding, like Mayer who got buried behind Brock Bowers, that I just don't see that happening.
I think he's going to stay in
another
Oakland.
team would be more willing.
I think he's staying in Vegas anyway, and Pitts is probably going to stay in Atlanta, and I think Darnell Washington is the most likely to be traded. Moving to the offensive line position, I have the Eagles keeping 10, and again, this is a position where the Eagles like to keep a lot of guys for depth reasons. Starters, Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Lane Johnson at right tackle. I have Tyler Steen right now, slated to be the starting right guard, but that can obviously change. And then I have them keeping Miles Hinton, Cam Williams, Trevor Keegan, Matt Pryor, and Drew Kendall. Again, I know Hinton and Williams are primarily tackles, and I think I think one of them can be a swing tackle. But they'll be able to back up Miles. And I know it's tough too because they'll be rookies. Just hope that nothing happens to Mailata and Johnson. Matt Pryor can play at either guard position, probably even play some tackle if needed. Drew Kendall, backup center, and also play some guard. Trevor Keegan, kind of play guard tackle, I think, wherever. So, again, versatility is going to be key at the backup offensive lineman positions, and that's what I think I have with all the backups. So I have 10 at offensive line, that's going to leave me with 25 on the offensive side of the ball.
I have 10 also, which ends up bringing me to 25 as well. So we ended up the same, just with a few different names. I broke it down offensive tackle. I got Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, obviously starting, Cameron Williams, the potential heir to Lane Johnson's throne, Miles Hinton, and I kept Holland Pierce. I think Holland Pierce, they gave him a lot of money as a UDFA. Yep, he's an absolute animal. He's huge. He looks the perfect part of a Stoutland U type of guy who they're going to keep around because, I mean, you throw a lot of money at some of these undrafted free agents. They threw a lot of money at 3 undrafted free agents this offseason. One of them was Montreal Johnson, yes. And I don't think that he's gonna stay, but the other two I actually have staying on the roster. And Holland Pierce being one of them. I think he's a perfect Stoutland U guy. I think he could be the swing tackle, similar to, Cameron Williams, probably gonna stay on the right side, but Miles Hinton and Holland Pierce, you can never have too many swing tackles, especially when you have Lane Johnson coming up on retirement. Jordan Mailata has stayed fairly healthy, but he's had his moments. So it's kind of nice to have that added, bit of depth where you have guys that can move interchangeably. And then on the interior of the offensive line, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen. Poor Tyler Steen's going to go to war for his job again, even though I think it really should be his for the taking. The competition this year feels a lot weaker than it was last year. I'll just say that for Tyler Steen. And then I have Kenyon Green just because of the acquisition cost to get him. I think they're going to keep him. They're going to see what they can do, what they can develop, and maybe turn him into, Mekhi Becton again and turn him into a pick next year. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Becton is a lot different of a story than Kenyon Green. And then I got Drew Kendall, and I don't have Keegan making it because it's tough with Green, Kendall, and Keegan. Like, they got to show some versatility along this
I don't
offensive
think
line.
Green's any good.
And
That's why I didn't
I
have him
don't I
make it.
don't think
And
he is either. I just think the cost to acquire him, I don't see that they would let him go. But I mean, it could be possible. To me, it's Keegan, Kendall, and Green, and it's who's gonna prove the most versatile and not the biggest, not someone who's going to be an expense to this offensive line. You can trust it, you can put them out, they're going to do their job. If you put them out in a position and they're just going to get blown up week in and week out, if you need them to step up when an injury occurs, like, they just got to figure out who's got the versatility and who can they trust at the interior of that offensive line. I think they got some great guys to develop for the future at tackle. I just wish they could kick one or two of them inside to just help out the guard situation, but we'll
it
see. I
might.
mean,
I
you
mean,
got to
you know how
focus in, but
Stoutland likes to do that. Likes to preach versatility and kind of have people cross train everywhere. Holland Pierce was like at the back end, like he was right there. And I think that if they can sneak him onto the practice squad, they're going to put him on the practice squad. So we both have 25 on the offensive side of the ball. Let's jump over to the defense. You can start. I don't know how you did yours. I have D tackle and then outside linebacker slash edge rusher. You go ahead and start where you want to start on the defensive side of the ball.
yeah, I did interior D line, I did edge, and then I just did linebackers as a group. But we'll go. I'll start with interior defensive line, then we'll do edge to anyone you think should be on the edge, and then we'll do linebackers as a whole. But interior defensive line for me, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Moro Jomo, and Ty Robinson. Plain and simple. I just don't see a way that I would love to see Thomas Booker find his way back on this roster, but I think he's going to have to show he showed something nice last year. Can he take it even further with the competition that's there? I don't know if he's going to be able to do it, especially with Ty Robinson there. Ty Robinson's a draft pick. He's got a backup job on lock. But going in with that many interior defensive linemen, I anticipate that they're going to probably bring a couple in back on the practice squad, or a handful on the practice squad, because that is a light interior defensive line room when you think that three of them are constantly going to be out there and you only have one backup essentially. So then, Jordan Davis can't play 90% plus of snaps. So we know he's a 50% type of guy. So that puts a lot on Moro Jomo and Ty Robinson. It'll be interesting if an interior defensive lineman's able to stand out above the crowd. I mean, I know one that I really like is Gabe Hall. The Eagles have really held on to Byron Young. They must see something. They must feel something with Byron Young, because they picked him up last year during the season and kept him away from other teams. They kept him on rosters as an inactive player. So I think it'll be very interesting to see what goes down between Booker, Young, and Gabe Hall. And I wouldn't be surprised if they sneak a fifth interior defensive lineman on the roster if one's able to show out.
I actually have the Eagles keeping 5: Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Moro Jomo, Ty Robinson, and Thomas Booker. I was able to fit them on my roster. Again, depth. We know Jalen Carter is going to play 85+% of the snaps. Moro Jomo is probably going to try to fill the Milton Williams role. And you're going to need somebody to fill the Moro Jomo role from last year. That could be that could be Ty Robinson, that could be Thomas Booker. Again, building depth. You know, who knows what's going to happen with Jordan Davis? They decided to keep his 5th-year option. So they feel like they have something with him still. They still trust him. So I was able to get 5 defensive tackles, or 5 interior defensive linemen on my roster.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love, starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
Whether it's a movie night or just midday, Skinny Pop is a salty snack that keeps on giving. Made with just 3 simple ingredients for an irresistibly delicious taste and a large serving size that lasts. Deliciously popped, perfectly salted. Skinny Pop, popular for a reason. Shop Skinny Pop now.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Finding a new job is stressful. But with Indeed, it doesn't have to be. Just fill out your Indeed profile with your skills, experience, and desired salary. The more you fill out, the better your matches will be. And hearing from hiring managers will be 2 times more likely. Relax. That's your Indeed profile sending opportunities your way. Indeed, the world can work better.
Yep, the beauty junk drawer. Full of those used once, why did I buy this? That was a waste products. Stop adding to it. Shop at Sephora and break the cycle. Sephora only carries the hot, high-quality products you'll never regret buying and brands you can only find at Sephora, like Kayali, Makeup by Mario, Kerastase, and M Beauty. Shop the hottest beauty with no regrets, only at Sephora.
Jumping to edge / outside linebacker. I hate the 3-4, by the way, but, just this is what we're doing. Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt, Azeez Ojulari, who I love to pick up, Josh Uche, I think they're going to keep. I think he's going to show a little bit something this preseason. And Antoine Powell-Ryland, I think he has a really good shot at making this roster. Now, he's not going to – I don't think he's going to be as good as Jalix Hunt was last year, but I think he's going to progress as the year goes on and be able to build some depth. I think Nolan Smith is going to be he's going to take a step. We know that after next season, Jalen Carter is going to get a monster contract. I think Nolan Smith is going to get a contract too. Obviously, it won't be as big, but they're going to do what they can to keep him. This is a very young edge room. Very young edge room. It wouldn't shock me if they decide to bring in some type of veteran, whether now they won't do this, but if they say they traded for a Trey Hendrickson type, or if things got bad in Pittsburgh and TJ Watt, it's not going to happen. Or if they decide to go the Von Miller route or the Jadeveon Clowney route, I do think they're going to attempt to bring in some type of veteran presence. There's no Brandon Graham anymore, no Josh Sweat. You need to have somebody that has that experience to be able to teach these guys, or at least be there to kind of be the level-headed guy. So that's what I have right now, but it wouldn't shock me if the Eagles decide to go and bring in somebody, bring in a vet on a 1 or 2 year deal.
I agree with you. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see them go and grab one of those ring chasers, whether it be Von Miller or Jadeveon Clowney. We know Howie is not a market setter. He is like a market creator. So Hendrickson and Watt, like you said, don't feel right because you're going to be continuing the trend of this market growing out of control with edge rushers. So I just don't see it happening, especially, that radio reporter that said if you said Nolan Smith for TJ Watt and a swap of picks, I'm like, that's insane. I don't see
Yeah.
Howie Roseman giving up on Nolan Smith just for TJ Watt. Namesake, I love the namesake. Obviously, we love TJ. None of us are going to deny we want to love TJ Watt, but this is TJ Watt, who's what, 31, 32 years old, that you then have to slap on the biggest edge rusher contract. Like, he's obviously going to look for at least 2-3 years of those fully guaranteed, if not the majority of a 4-year contract. It just doesn't make sense. You just have to think of it from the mind of Howie Roseman. Hendrickson and Watt don't make sense. They're just not going to happen. I agree with you. At the time of putting together my way too early 53-man, Bryce Huff was there. So I am able to squeeze Josh Uche in, which is who I also agree with. You saw earlier in the offseason, Lane Johnson spoke pretty highly of him. He's one of those guys that feels like similar to Jalen Hunt. I agree with you. Like, pin the ears back, let the man go, let the guy show his speed, his athleticism, and he can probably get after the quarterback. And while he may not ever be, especially buried on this depth chart, he may never be 11 sack New England Patriot Joshua Uche. But if you can go out there and you can get 5 or 6 sacks to complement a Nolan Smith going for 10 plus, a Jalen Hunt going for the 10 area, and Azeez Ojulari getting in the 6 to 8 area, it's fine to be a guy like Joshua Uche who can go and grab 5 or 6 sacks if possible. And then I got Antoine Power Ryland as well. It's a draft pick thing. It's a draft capital thing. He was highly productive. I think if you're and Howie loves that. If he's not getting a value out of it, he's just going to go for an extremely highly productive player with a certain draft pick. And that's what he did with Powell Ryland. He could be a guy that I could see going out there and giving 5 or 6 sacks in a really, really light rotational role, just because he had such great production throughout his college career. So I agree with you on that. Smith, Hunt, Ojulari, Huff, Powell, Ryland as well for the edge rushers.
Well, take Huff out. You said Huff. He's not on this.
Oh, sorry, not Huff. Sorry, Uche. Sorry.
So my only issue with our edge rushers is they're not going to be very good against the run. So they need to figure it out. Maybe Nolan Smith will be, but that's what bothers me when it comes to our edge rushers. Linebacker position. Go ahead, Connor.
Well, and then we'll address Adam's question as well, but within this discussion. So linebacker, I've been keeping 5, one of which, potentially 2 of which, could start on PUP. We're gonna see in August training camp, is Jihad Campbell gonna be out there and playing? One of them, Nakobe Dean, I'm almost 100% certain he starts on PUP. I think it makes sense for how you might have to build the roster and some of the tough decisions you might have to make. And I don't think he'll be healthy right off the bat. But I got Zach Bond, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Jihad Campbell, Nakobe Dean, and Smail Mondin Jr. Making the roster. Patrick Johnson's close, but this was one of those things where I looked at all the special teamers and I'm like, which one can get out there and do the most? I just couldn't keep Patrick Johnson. Maybe it's tough to say. We'll see. Like I said, if Nakobe Dean and Jihad Campbell end up on the PUP list and Patrick Johnson suddenly probably slides into the role, because they're going to need to keep some additional linebackers. The question from Adam was, do you think Trout Jr. opens the season at inside linebacker? I'm hoping Jihad Campbell is healthy and ready to go, because I would prefer to see Campbell. But if we see Campbell that early on and we see Dean start on the PUP list, I think that might spell the end of Dean's time in Philadelphia, because he's going to be owed a pretty monster contract extension at the end of this season as well. I'm hoping Campbell, but I think I'm preparing mentally for Trout Jr. To start at inside linebacker.
So I have the same 5: Zach Bond, Nakobe Dean, Jihad Campbell, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., and Smail Mondin Jr. I actually think Campbell's going to be ready for the season. I saw a video like him working out, and now I know you're not. I know when these guys are working out, they're not in pads, you're not hitting. He looked good though, moving around, like moving both shoulders. So we'll see what happens when they actually put pads on and get to camp. But I think Campbell is going to be ready, and like what Campbell can do, him and Zach Bond are like the same but guy. So like you can blitz either one, they can drop back into like it can be amazing. It's going to be amazing what Vic Fangio is going to be able to do with both of the linebackers in Campbell and Zach Bond. I can't wait to see how he deploys them. It's going to be fun. But if Campbell's not ready, I think it will be Trotter. Junior, I think he's going to be ready. He got that experience, while he didn't play a lot, but he's got NFL experience now. He knows the speed of the game. And as long as Zach Bond's there, though, I do think that they'll be fine. I really love the combination of Bond and Dean last year, though. They were so good together. It's such a shame what happened in the Kobe Dean in the playoff game. And I'm really shocked that the Eagles didn't bring it back Oren Burks because he played pretty well for Dean. But we'll see. And I have a lot of faith in Jahad Campbell. I think that he's it won't be at the beginning of camp, but I do think by we get to the middle to the latter portions of camp, he's gonna give it a go, and it wouldn't shock me if he was ready week 1.
Adam says it's pronounced Smile, even though it doesn't look like it. Listen, it won't be the first name we butcher. It won't be the last name we butcher on this show. We can't even get the
Not
last
even the
names
show
right
in the
of
city
some
of
players.
Philadelphia.
And in the city of Philadelphia, agreed. And then he also said, I'd be surprised if Campbell was ready, would be nice. So I agree. It's a bonus if Campbell's ready and good to go. It'll be interesting. We're going to see, through training camp, how much he participates. And then I think, if preseason comes, that's going to kind of dictate, if he's not playing at all in the preseason, but he will participate all through training camp, I think we see Campbell start out the season on the roster and as a starting inside linebacker. I don't know if I see a way Campbell plays preseason at all, no matter what. I think you got to kind of put some bubble wrap on him and protect him a little bit, like we used to do with Nakobe Dean.
I mean, nobody plays in the preseason anyway. That's what.
It depends if you're fighting for anything. But Campbell was drafted in the first round. You ain't fighting for anything.
He's not competing for anything. He's on the roster.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move to the cornerback position. I have the Eagles keeping 6. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Keely Ringo, Adoree Jackson, Eli Ricks, and Asante Samuel Jr. They're going to sign. I think that they'll bring him in. I think that again, this is where the Eagles have quality, obviously. With Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. And then you want to have that depth. You want to build the depth. And I know Asante Samuel Jr. is still working his way back, but I think that he has a shot. The Eagles have a shot. I mean, again, I thought it was going to be Jair Alexander. He ended up going to Baltimore, wanted to play with Lamar again. But yeah, I do think that they're going to bring somebody in. They're probably going to wait, see how the first preseason game or two goes. Quinyon won't play. Cooper won't play. Keely's going to get a lot of playing time. Or Adoree Jackson's going to get a lot of playing time. These young guys, Eli Ricks is going to get a lot of playing time. I do think signing Asante Samuel doesn't really necessarily spell doom for a guy like Keely Ringo, but I just think it provides depth. So I'm going with Mitchell, DeJean, Samuel Jr., Ringo, Jackson, and Ricks.
I would love to see them sign Asante Samuel Jr. as well. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. I mean, he's supposed to get his, he's supposed to meet with his doctor like mid-July, and if he gets the go-ahead that he's good to go, that's when he said he's gonna start negotiating with teams and start, putting himself out there to get on a roster. I think there's other teams that can probably provide a better opportunity for him. I mean, that's just one of many. I think the Philadelphia Eagles, if you're looking for opportunity, we're probably going to be a bit further down the list because this team, we just came off a Super Bowl. If you want to try and join a team going to repeat the Super Bowl, build up your market value for next year, I mean, we showed that we could do that, and we did it with a bunch of players this past season. So I got Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Keely Ringo, Adoree Jackson, Eli Ricks, and I got Mac McWilliams. I just don't. I'm not of the ilk that Howie is going to move on from many of these 10 draft picks that he took unless he's confident that they're going to clear through the waiver process and that he's good. They're going to end up back on the practice squad. I just, it's so rare to see him cut ties with many, if any, but we also aren't very used to him having such a large draft class and large draft pool that he's coming in. Like and when you consider the Jackson, Hook, and Holland Pearson, how much he spent on them as UDFAs, you could almost call this draft class like 13 guys because that's a lot of money that you're putting in guaranteed and upfront with those undrafted free agents. So I just don't see a way where Mac McWilliams doesn't make this roster. But I mean, if there's an opportunity to get your hands on Asante Samuel and you risk I mean, I'd probably move on from Adoree Jackson over Mac McWilliams in this roster situation. But if you have the opportunity to get Samuel, Samuel is better than Jackson. And I would take Samuel all day if he's just wanting to build some value, show that he's healthy, show that he can play and go for a championship. So I would love to see that.
Yep. And let's finish off at the safety position. Go ahead, Connor.
Don't disrespect those three special teamers that are so obvious that it hurts.
Oh
But
yeah, that's true.
yes, we'll go to the safety position. I got Sidney Brown, Reed Blankenship, Andrew Makuba, and Maxon Hook. I have them keeping Hook. He was a guy that they spent the most undrafted free agent money on. They threw $200,000 in guaranteed money at him. Great friends with Kenyon Mitchell. I think he bunked with Kenyon Mitchell when they were at Toledo. I just don't. I feel like that's like a play at, and he was a very good special teams player too, and a ball hawk. So, like, I feel like those are some of the things that we don't have in the room with some of the safeties that we have. Of course, we don't know what we have in Andrew Makuba, but as people will probably know, we are not the world's biggest Reed Blankenship fans, and Reed Blankenship and Sidney Brown are very similar players. I like Sidney Brown. He's from Canada. Hello. Like, we need more Canadians in the NFL. But at the same time, Sidney Brown and Reed Blankenship are very similar. So I struggle at times to, I like Bakuba. I think Bakuba's going to be the safety too. They're going to make it a very fair and 50-50 battle between Brown and Makuba. Andre Sam definitely could make the roster as well. I just, and am not ruling out Justin Simmons. Justin Simmons is trying his hardest to just walk himself in the door to the Philadelphia Eagles organization. He's basically done it all, but sign a contract with Howie Roseman. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I just don't see a world where they keep five safeties. So I need somebody like a Maxon Hook. If Justin Simmons gets to be on this team, Hook leaves for me. If Sam's the guy at the end of the roster, he's off the roster for me.
Also,
I would
you
take
got to
Justin
remember
Simmons
Cooper
over
DeJean's
both.
going to play some safety as well.
Exactly. This is a team that's never really predominantly built their team with 5 or 6 safeties or found a significant value in the safety room because there's so much versatility and there's so many movable pieces and parts, especially in Vic Fangio's defense. I don't know. I don't see. I know people love Andre Sam. There's guys who are talking up Sam and Danny Gray. I just don't know if there's room for them on this roster. And kind of thinking about special teamers. Like I said, I want to see a special teamer who, through their career, has played kick return, punt return, and on the defensive side of the ball in those same situations. So I want them to be those types of players. So, and that's
Also,
what I
don't
look
forget
for in
that
guys
a guy that got beat a lot last year, Tristan McCollum, because Vic Fangio likes him a lot. I think Fangio likes McCollum more than he likes Sidney Brown because
I think they're
McCollum
going to
got in
have
there a lot.
they're going to have tough decisions in depth on defense because they have a lot of good depth. I'm not sitting here saying that they all would immediately be picked up through the waiver wire process. No, I'm not starting that. But they have some good depth and they have some guys that the team really likes. So that's the tough thing. Are you going to be able to pull the trigger on letting go of a guy you really like for a guy that may be equal or better and might be able to grow and mature better? Have we seen the peak with Sam and McCullum, like, that's a tough decision. You paid Hook a ton of money. You've Sam, you've McCullum. They're special teamers. They're fan favorites. They're team and coach favorites. It's going to be really interesting to see what they end up doing with that safety room. There's going to be, outside of Brown, Blankenship, and Makuba, I think a lot of them are going to get a shot to run wild in the preseason and show what they got. But yeah, and he, Adam says that Fangio mentioned him a lot, meaning McCullum. Yes, he has mentioned McCullum just a few times.
Yeah. So I've forwarded safety, Reed Blankenship. Again, not the biggest fan, but he's probably going to get a contract extension. Sidney Brown, as Adam says, I wish Sidney was the athlete his identical twin is. Not a fan. Think he'll be a career special teamer. Yeah, he's more of a heat-seeking missile. He kind of just rather hit somebody than kind of play the ball or whatever. So again, he's going to be there. Andrew Makuba, second-round pick. Hopefully he's better than Jake Pond Jarrett when we took him. I know it's different schools, obviously, and Makuba was really good. He can also play some slot as well. And I have Justin Simmons. Yeah, I'm the one that's going with some free agency guys. I do think Justin Simmons will be an Eagle. And again, it's going to be after the first or second preseason game. They're going to want to see what they have with Sidney Brown, Andre Sam, Tristan McCollum, Andrew Makuba. Like, they're going to want to see all these guys, out there on the field. And I do think that Simmons will come in. He knows Vic Fangio. He knows Christian Parker. He doesn't really need to get acclimated. He just needs to get a little reacclimated with the defense. He doesn't need to learn it fresh, learn it from new. And I do think Simmons is going to sign, and I do think Simmons might, at least early on, start. And then I think Makuba has the potential to kind of work his way into the starting lineup. And again, Cooper DeJean is going to play all over the field. When they're in their base defense, if they only have two corners out there, he's going to be on the outside. But then when they go to nickel or dime, he'll either be playing slot, which I think he's one of the better slot corners in the league. He'll be there. If they need him at safety, they will. You can put Makuba potentially at slot. Like, he is going to be all over the field, and he's going to have, and they're going to have him from week one. Knock on wood. They had to wait till week 5 or 6 last year to get DeJean on the field, and that's when the defense turned. So I think DeJean is going to be all over the defense. He's going to play 100%, 110% of the snaps. You won't see him come off the field unless it's a blowout and give him rest. But I can't wait to see what they decide to do with Cooper DeJean.
Yeah, I mean, and it was week 6 because it was post the bye. We were discussing in week 5 if they were going to do something about next year, and I remember that vividly, where we were at that point the last season, and then where we've ended up, and the discussions that were very pointless and unnecessary. But I mean, safety is one of those positions where they have a lot of guys who are probably career special teamers, and it's really going to be interesting to see, what other special teamers do they keep? Do they see a value in keeping an Andre Sam and a Tristan McCullum, one or the other, or both on the roster? Because they can do a lot of great teams for special teams, but I think at the end of the day, it's predominantly going to be a 3-headed safety room between Brown, Blankenship, and Makuba for the majority of and Cooper DeJean periodically mixing in there when they can't have him out there as a cornerback. So I really don't think there's a lot of room in the room to hold too many roster spots unless you're confident that they're like elite top tier special teamers that are never going to leave the special teams field. But I think that, they have some guys in-house. They have an Eli Ricks. They have a Keely Ringo. They have an Avery Williams. They have some they have some guys who've shown great success on special teams and taken a bit of a smaller role in a backseat to potential starting jobs because there hasn't been room for them. So it'll be really interesting to see. Just safety's never been a position that they've held more than 4 guys at. So I don't see this being the year with some of the tough decisions that they have to make that they're going to end up going out there and keeping 4 or 5 guys. There's going to be some guys who've hyped up Terrace Marshall, Danny Gray, Andre Sam, who may be disappointed. Tristan McCullum, I'm leaving his name out because if Fangio mentions him a lot, if Fangio loves the guy, we know that Fangio has a ton of say in that final roster build, in those free agent signings, and in anything that's happened in that defensive room.
Yeah, and as Adam asked, you think Simmons week one? I do think that they're going to go through a preseason game or two. Let's see what it looks like. Go through, the practices, go through the joint practice with the Browns, and they'll see what they do. And unless Simmons signs somewhere before then, I do think Simmons will be an Eagle. He's, like Connor was saying, he's been begging to come to Philly. I think he's been begging to come to Philly for 2 years. He didn't want to go to Atlanta last year. He really wanted to be an Eagle last year. And I will say this, the Eagles almost signed Justin Reed. Now, Justin Reed is better than Justin Simmons. But and Reed said it, I think when he was talking to Kay Adams a couple months back, he was like, it just, the financials didn't work out. So it's not like the Eagles weren't trying to get somebody to come in here, because they made a push and almost had Justin Reed, who's a good youngish safety. I know Simmons is 31-ish, 32, whatever. This ain't going to be a long-term deal. It's going to be a 1-year deal. And I think looking at the defense that we have, Zach Bond is this will be his second year in Philly, but Zach Bond's like the elder statement of this defense. You don't have a Brandon Graham. You don't have a Darius Slay. You don't have an older guy. You need to get a veteran presence on this defense, and I think that's where, a Justin Simmons can come in handy. A Von Miller or Jadeveon Clowney. I thought Jair Alexander could have been that type of guy. I know he's on the younger side, but he's a vet in this league. So I do think that they're going to bring in somebody. And I think Justin Simmons, again, he knows Vic Fangio. He knows Christian Parker. He knows this defense. And I think that he's going to be able to come in here and provide that veteran leadership on the defensive side of the ball.
And I mean, when you look at last year, C.J. Gardner-Johnson played 86% of snaps. Reed Blankenship played 78% of snaps. And I mean, obviously, you have to discount the Week 18 game, so automatically they lose some snaps because of that. But this is going to be about guys who can be on the field and stay on the field. And that's why in this safety room, I just don't see why. Like, Simmons is going to have to take a vet's minimum deal and probably play 10% of snaps. Probably be a bit more of a special teams type of guy, but that's
I don't
just
know.
the
I think
reality
Simmons.
of
I actually disagree. I think if Simmons signs, he's going to be when Cooper DeJean isn't at the safety position, and I think this would be the start, because I think Makuba will eventually work his way into being the starter. I think it'll be Blankenship and Simmons as your starting safety tandem for like the first half of the year. I disagree with what you're saying.
I can't wait to see the safety. I know there's a lot of people who are like right guards, this huge war that's going to go down again. I don't think it's going to be. I think it's Tyler Steen's job to lose, and he technically didn't even lose it last year. He just got injured, and it left the door open for someone else to take his job. For Becton, sorry, to take his job. Safety too is definitely the position battle to watch, because you know that the entire team is watching it. McCullum and Sam and those guys aren't even part of the discussion. I think it's a three-headed race for the starting two jobs. And if they're not really happy with Brown and they know they got Makuba on a rookie deal, I wouldn't be surprised to see Justin Simmons come in, because there's an opportunity to bring him in, and you're not really, Sidney Brown you invested decently in him, but he may not be who you want him to be, and he may still have some learning to do, because he only came in late last season. He was banged up. So, and then Makuba might have some more learning to do. You can kind of make the excuse that you can fit Simmons there. And I like Simmons. I'm fine with having Simmons there. But I do think that starting two safeties for week one are in-house. And I think that's something that me and you are going to talk about a lot for the rest of this offseason.
Yeah, the only thing where I would agree with that is if the Eagles signed Simmons after week one, it wouldn't be isn't there like some type of guarantee, like where he wouldn't have that fully, I don't know if it's fully guaranteed or whatever. There's I forget what it is. There's some type of contractual thing where if you sign a vet after week one, if you had to get rid of him, it wouldn't cost you anything. Something weird, but we'll see what happens. And then I think the specialists are, we both know Jake Elliott, Braden Mann, and Charlie Hewlett, the new long snapper, as Rick Lovato has gone. And Elliott was clutch. Elliott was perfect in pretty much almost perfect in postseason. We'll see if he can have a better regular season. He didn't hit his first 50-yard field goal until the Super Bowl, whatever it was. So we'll see if he has a better year. But that is our way too early 53-man roster predictions. We had some different variety, I kind of went on a couple of positions, whether it was a trade or free agency. I went a little different than Connor did, but um, whatever the roster is after when the initial 53-man roster comes out after the Jets preseason game, it's not going to be that way September 4th when they open the season at the Link against Dallas.
We know Howie. We know he's got things up his sleeve. Probably not a Water Hendrickson type of deal, but we know he's always looking to improve this roster, make changes that are just going to position this roster to be potentially even better this year than last. That's his job. That's what he's
going to be tough because
responsible
that
for.
team last year was freaking amazing.
It absolutely was. I'm excited that we're barreling towards training camp. We have NFL football to actually talk about. I cannot wait.
I think we are 2 weeks away, if I'm not mistaken. 2 weeks away from training camp opening for the Philadelphia Eagles. July 31st is the Hall of Fame game. August 7th is the Eagles' first preseason game against the Bengals at the Link. Cannot wait till we get to start discussing football. And as everybody remembers now, this is going into the regular season towards the mid part, but the NFC East is the Hard Knocks, the in-season Hard Knocks division that's being followed. So we'll get to see the Eagles for the first time ever on Hard Knocks. It'll be interesting to see what intel we get from that. Thank you all for tuning in to our way too early 53-man prediction here on the Kelly Green Hour. As always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LGRL54. Follow the Eagles Pinpool Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcast at Eagles Pinpool Network. Thanks for all the comments. We appreciate it. We will be back probably next week. I think we're going to dive into, let's look at kind of want to look at the schedule. We haven't really dove into that. I won't lie. I actually have my prediction down already. So can't wait to see where we differ on that. Thank you all for tuning in to the Kelly Green Hour.